first virtual event for the year for the Seattle chapter here in the VRARA Association. My name is Roberto Haza. I'll be your host today. And today I have the team of the chapter, Julia Beabout, if you want to introduce yourself.
Sure. My name is Julia Beabout. I'm the CEO and creative director at Novaby. We do augmented reality placemaking. And I am also the chair of programs here at VRARA Seattle. So if you have any programming ideas that you want to share or get feedback on, please reach out. We'd love to collaborate on programming.
And we also have our communications chair, Arian Kolp. Arian, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm the founder and editor of VRVoyaging.com, and I'm the communications chair for VRARA. I will be talking about VR voyaging today and how it enables experiencing other cultures and cultural heritage through VR.
Thank you, guys. So this is the small and mighty team that we put together programs for anybody inside the industry and outside the industry who want to learn more about it. And we keep this community going with a monthly program that we started kicking off. We kicked it off in the summer of 2022, and it really picked up when Julia joined the board early last year in 2023. So we have been a very active, one of the most active chapters of the VRARA. As an introduction to the VRARA, if you haven't heard about it, it's a worldwide organization. It is conformed by over 60 chapters worldwide in 60 different cities. You'll have chapter presidents like myself that we look at what's going on in the community and the region where we live in, right? And we stay engaged with the community, and everything we do is about XR and how it's becoming more widely adopted. It's also an association that has what they call vertical committees. And these are specific industry-based committees led by another group of chair people as well. And they specialize in things like marketing, storytelling, industrial, all the industries that you can think of. There's an industry for that. There's over 16 different verticals. And they meet on a weekly basis. So as part of the membership, you get invited to these weekly meetings, and it's a more conversational. They usually not get recorded. They speak very confidential information, so that's a big benefit of being a member. On top of that, the association has been going for over a decade now, and it is aside from being worldwide, we generate content like this. This content we are recording today will be posted in the YouTube channel, and depending on how each chapter president runs their chapter, it will get recorded or then material posted later. We have a website. It has accessible by the 65,000 members. We have a Slack channel exclusive only for members. And there's summits that are organized and coordinated by the different verticals that I mentioned, right? So we just had a healthcare summit that was virtual in Engage XR, and also an in-person summit for the defense industry that happened in the Orlando, Florida area. And it has been less than 45 days of the year, and we already had 2 summits, right? So it's a very engaging community. And today, I invited Arian to showcase what he does with VR voyaging. So he's going to be not just the communications chair, but he's going to represent his company today and how he curates things outside of video games that bring another spin to what virtual travel means. So, Arian, I'm going to stop here and give the microphone to you, so you can please take it away. And always welcome to have questions. Alex, thank you for joining. You're the one that.
Unfortunately, I'm going to have to leave in a minute.
All on you.
So I really do apologize in advance.
No, please, no worries. And for anybody else that is looking at the recording, we're going to post the timeline so you can skip the introduction and go straight to Arian. So Arian, take it away.
All right. So the title of the talk is Experiencing the World, and it's all about VR voyaging, but it's also just about how you can use VR in general as a tool. There's lots of use cases for VR, of course. We see it in simulations, we see it in entertainment, lots of games, but it's also a powerful way to just do virtual travel, especially as it gets more expensive to travel, takes time. It can be challenging to make that happen, but it's pretty cost effective as a means of taking trips and getting to experience things outside of your normal day-to-day. So I am the founder of VR Voyaging, and I've been working in the industry for 25 years. I've worked the entire, bottom to top, starting from junior developer, leading, managing teams. I work with a lot of Microsoft technologies, big data, healthcare, and in more recent time, transitioning toward AI and VR more. And the arts and cultures, I don't have any kind of degree in that. It's a strong interest. I'm just really passionate about that. When I do travel, it's always to places that are culturally significant. I love to visit museums and historic sites. So I got really excited at seeing some of the opportunities within the realm of VR, and the Quest headsets being, just a few $100. It's a pretty easy decision to get involved in that. So VR Voyaging focuses not on games. Plenty of websites doing games. It's very much just experiential VR. And so the main thing is news and reviews, is what I say. And the reviews are really anything that's not a game. There's a good chance I'll bring it up on there, whether it is something to do with travel, a documentary, cultural heritage, going to museums virtually, exploring paintings virtually, and even some amount of simulation. I don't go for the hardcore simulations, but there's a few that let you conduct an orchestra, or let you do things that are kind of almost game-like, but they're not a scored, timed kind of thing. That's really the distinction. So there's another one, you can explore ancient recipes, lost recipes it's called. And it's just a really neat way to look at kind of lost civilizations and like ancient Roman, ancient Mayan, whatever, and cook in their kitchen and learn about what they were doing. In addition to the reviews, I write articles that just kind of explain what is all of this. I don't really assume that somebody visiting the site knows anything about VR, not just my specific domain, but even just what is VR? Why should I get into it? I have recommendations for headsets. I talk a lot about how does this happen? How am I stepping into a real world location? And there's this technology called photogrammetry. There's rendering technologies like NeRF, neural radiance fields, Gaussian splatting. And these are all ways of starting from a real thing and bringing it into, it doesn't even have to be VR, it could just be flat on the screen, it could be a 3D explorable on the screen, or in VR or AR, depending on the final result. I have contacts with a number of the companies making the larger travel and culture tools, and I've done interviews with some of their founders, and then I cover new updates, new releases, things like that. And I also, as far as I can tell, I hadn't seen anything on the internet, and I decided to put this together, and that's a world map of where the experiences are. Say, I want to go to Italy. Okay, there's 4 different things that you could view virtually in Italy. And then kind of conversely, if you are in the right place, because this is you at home viewing an experience, but if I am in New York, if I am in Paris, if I am in a larger area, there's a good chance that there will be location-based VR experiences. There's a pretty big David Attenborough one right now, where you get to see some of his footage in 8K 3D VR. And then other ones related to dinosaurs and King Tut and things like that. So if you can find out about those events. Also, just to mention, I am happy to work with museums or other non-commercial entities. I will list those, and aquariums if they have VR exhibits, whether they're free or paid. I just want to be a place where people can find, okay, I don't have a headset, but what are some interesting things around me that I might want to go see? So the VR world map is the place where you can visit on the site. I'm going to try switching. I think this is going to be awkward, but let's give it a try. Okay, so, okay. On the VR Voyaging VR World Map page, you can explore using the magic of Google Maps. You can drill into a world map and see what the different places are. Okay, I'm curious what's in Mongolia, click it, Orkhon Valley in Mongolia, inscriptions, Turkish writings, and if you click on it, it will take you to the write-up of that, that tool, that site, whatever it might be, with that VR experience. The Polynesian Cultural Center in the middle of the Pacific there. If you click on one that's got more points, it'll drill into it until you get to the level of being able to see individual ones. So if you've ever wanted to visit Chernobyl and weren't sure you wanted the radiation ticks on your Geiger counter, you can do that. Visit glaciers on Iceland. There's some just amazing opportunities to explore what's out there. You can filter it by different types of apps. You'll see it goes down as I get rid of them. Most of them are in the travel and tourism category. But it's a good way just to explore and plan your virtual trip, decide if it's worth buying the tool. In some cases, I may not have a review of the tool, but I may just have a description of it and explain it. I provide information on the app itself, how many stars I gave it, if I've rated it yet, whether or not it's paid. Blue Planet is one of my favorites. They have over 40 different experiences you can visit. They just recently, sorry, they're up to 90 now. They just released a new update with DLC, so you can buy more locations over time. It's a good lesson in sustainability for an app like this, where the value is in adding more things, but it doesn't become financially sustainable to have a one-time fee on it. And so people can buy the location packs that they're interested in. So I include the install size and what headsets it runs on, and then I have direct links to Steam or Meta to download it, and a Meta referral link, which saves both of us money, 25% off the apps over $10, and there's also a kickback to VR Voyaging, so you don't have to use the affiliate link if you don't want to. So this is what one of the review pages looks like, and I'm going to switch back to the. Wish there was just a real quick back and forth here. Oh no, it's going to make me actually advance slides too, I think. Okay, I don't like that as much. So I've just called out a few places here and some of the reasons you might want to use VR-based travel. There's a lot of areas you just can't go to otherwise. They're hard to get to, inaccessible. There's not a lot of people go to Patagonia every year. And even more specifically, this is an extremely remote area of Patagonia. As I mentioned, Chernobyl, certainly right now, not many people are going to go to it. But even prior to that, you could get a tour to go there, but you got to be there and you got to be okay with that residual radiation. And then this is a Venice experience. This is not my favorite kind. It's more 360 video based, which a lot of people call VR. I prefer there to be more immersion to it than just a fixed viewpoint 360, but it's still, it's a lot nicer than just watching a documentary. So these are some of the opportunities for traveling on my site. Under that category, you'll find a much longer list of them, many of them having been reviewed or at least providing information on where to get them. In the realm of cultural heritage, this covers things that are either their museums or buildings, their artwork. The Smithsonian one is an excellent example. It's a kind of small experience, but it's free. They've got some extremely high resolution scan of at least a dozen pieces of sculpture and paintings that you can walk around as though you're right there. It's all full scale and next best thing to being there. Obviously, Notre Dame is a little hard to see these days, at least in its former glory, but Ubisoft had scanned a whole bunch of it for Assassin's Creed, I think was the title, and one of the ways they helped with the reconstruction, they gave a whole lot of money, but they released a VR walkthrough so you can actually see Notre Dame. I was fortunate enough to be there. I have some photos, but didn't do any kind of VR capture at the time. I was also going to go to Versailles that day when I went to Notre Dame, but due to protests in the streets, the subway was closed off. So one of the places I love to go looking for cultural heritage, architecture, that sort of thing, it's not necessarily even VR, but the site Sketchfab. You can choose from, probably 100,000 models in various categories. And when you click it, it brings you to a viewer. In this example, you can see there's even little circled numbers. If you click it, it gives you annotations, or you can cycle through the annotations, kind of like Google and SciArc's virtual tours. And if you're in VR, those are still there, and it tells you a little bit about what you're looking at. They used to support AR as well, and they do unlimited models still. It's a little bit weird, but Sketchfab is completely free to search, to view models, to enter into VR, explore the models. Often you can look at the textures and the wireframe, the mesh, the different layers that have been applied to it. It's a great way just to explore models. There's a number of things that are free to download. Other ones you have to pay to get a copy of it, or they're not available at all, and you can only look at them on Sketchfab. But there's a large amount of cultural heritage available there. So this is an example of the Sketchfab interface. I'm specifically in the cultural heritage models right now. I'm not sure how that's cultural heritage, but they are user tagged. So some of them are amazing, and some of them are a little less amazing. Lots and lots of ancient coins that have been scanned, lots of ancient statues, or not necessarily ancient, but just artistic. A lot of ruins of buildings that you can step into. If I click on it, it loads it, and it's pretty quick, except when I'm on the call. Oh, this one has 3 million triangles and 1.5 million vertices, so that was probably not a good example to bring up. But you can like them. It counts the number of views. You can create collections if you want to go back to them later, and people will sometimes make their collections public, so you can follow. Oh, wow, that's really not a good example. So I can rotate it now that it's loaded. I can zoom in. I can pan, and you can imagine being able to stand there life size in VR is a pretty amazing feeling. And you don't have to pay for anything. Notice this doesn't have a download link. It also doesn't have a buy link. So this is an example of one that you can only view on their site or from their site in VR. But it's kind of like getting another location in Brink XR or Blue Planet without having to, download a whole new app or pay anything for it. So it's a great repository. I mentioned following collections. You can also follow individuals. I don't know this man, but I love the types of things he's collecting here. If you want to step into rooms, if you want step into a shrine, or just look at artifacts that might be in a museum. They were probably scanned from museums, and it's a great way to take a look at it. And I am working on, this is kind of in beta, but embedding the models themselves into the site, so you can click on them from here, and you don't have to go to Sketchfab to see the ones that VR Voyaging recommends as some items that are especially significant or interesting, whatever it might be. All right, and it's back to sharing. So back to just kind of looking at some of the experiences that are out there. Some of them are ancient cultures. There's historical events that you can step into. You can explore the ruins of Pompeii. This is a wonderful experience. One of the guys that made this went on to create a couple of other 3D scan-based location experiences in different parts around the world. He's got another very large app getting ready to drop soon, which I'll be covering on the site. 7 VR Wonders is an interesting one. It's the 7 wonders of the ancient world rebuilt in VR. It's not photographic, it's artistic, and it's a little simplified, but it is an interesting way to see these items at scale, as we believe many of them were. Or visiting events like Hiroshima or the Bikini Atoll testing and actually being able to stand there and having the mushroom cloud and the wave hitting you virtually is pretty interesting at full scale. And then I have different experiences. Like I said, there's the cooking one, but there's also, you can watch a mini opera that's completely volumetric. I can't remember this one has any, I think some of it is captured and other elements are created, volumetrically captured, which I guess I should point out to volumetrically capture is another thing, another description of like photogrammetry. That's not just taking the surface view from a given angle like a photograph, but actually capturing it from all sides. And this is especially impressive when you have a multi-camera rig and you can capture a person that way. And so in Senza Peso and various other apps, you can actually walk around a person who has been captured, kind of like Star Wars hologram style, and see their performance from any angle. The blue is a wonderful, it's a few bucks, it's not that much. And they just, after like 8 years, added another couple locations. You can go deep underwater, you can see all sorts of interesting, you can have this big blue whale go past you. You can walk around on the ocean floor. It's a wonderful way to introduce somebody to VR and the amazing capabilities of it. I would recommend it to anyone who likes to show off their headset and is wondering what is a good tool for that. Next to no learning, it's pretty much you can just sit there and do nothing if you want, or you can do a small amount of interactions. This is fun. This is Mona Lisa behind the glass. It's not just the painting itself, but it steps into Da Vinci's studio at the time and the view around that and more information on the model and just kind of a deep dive into the Mona Lisa, but again, full size, volumetric, all around you. So not an experience you can easily get otherwise. And then the other thing that's going to mess up my presentation, switching again, the VR Voyaging Calendar of VR. I mentioned this before. As far as I know, it's the only such site that specializes in the actual real world experiences. So it's a map just like the other one was, but this is now showing places around the world where you can do in-person VR related events. And some of them are at many places around the world. Some of the big location-based ones you can go all over. USS Arizona Memorial, this is like a public museum, basically, kind of event. Here's one that's at an aquarium. This one is at a library in Gettysburg. So it's very similar to the app reviews, except they're very specifically in-person VR. If you click on them, you can learn a little bit about what it's all about, see in a lot of cases the price is there, which locations it's being hosted at, when it started, if it's known when it's going to end. A lot of times these places don't provide those dates, so this just has a pretty brief description here. Can only provide what I have access to. So, so I don't have to switch one more time. I'm gonna show. Oh, sorry, and this is from the VR events calendar versus the VR world map. There's also under apps and reviews, you can go to subcategories, but you can also just click the header and it takes you to the browsing screen where you can see some of the main categories highlighted and most recent things that have been reviewed in those areas. So you can start from the home page and just kind of look at some of the new things that have been posted. You can browse for what's an app that I might want to buy or that I might want to download. When was it released? How many stars did I give it? And click on it for the review. So that's the apps and reviews.
How easy is it to navigate from your repository of content to the actual experience?
I would love to just have the content itself be directly accessible, but in most cases, it's either something from the Meta Store or from Steam. Occasionally, it's WebXR content that you can visit on a website. So in those cases, it's a direct link, but it's usually a link to a store page. Yeah. Other than the Sketchfab models, which do take you directly to the model page where you can view it in VR. But this is not a website that at the time anyway, it currently has a VR interface to the website itself. That's something that I've been considering, but I haven't had the opportunity to work on that yet.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and you make it easy for those of us that want to go into one of these experiences. You have, when you click on it, it'll show you where to access it, right? In the links that you showed us at the beginning.
Yes. Yeah, so when you're looking at it, it'll tell you the compatibility of the headset, and then it will give the direct links to where you can get it. Once upon a time, there was some Microsoft mixed reality, Windows mixed reality ones. There was another button for Microsoft. There's another button for Viveport in a few cases. Just depends on the experience. I'm trying to think if there's one on here that would have other links, but. Yeah, there's one at Viveport. So yeah, you can decide if it makes sense for your hardware and then decide where you want to buy it. The way it works these days, I think it's important to know, and I write about this a bit, even though Meta and Vive have their own stores, if you're buying things that are for the Rift or for the Vive in general, they're Steam VR these days. The world has basically settled on Steam VR. So you can play those with almost any headset. And then amazingly, if people aren't familiar with this yet, the Meta Quest headsets have for a while had the ability to stream PC VR. And you need to have a good Wi-Fi network, of course, but if you can run it on your desktop, you can run it on your headset. And just in the last few months, just a little after the Quest 3 came out, Steam released Steam Link for Quest, and it's phenomenal. So it's a much fewer intermediaries than what it used to be trying to run a Steam app, much more of a direct support for the Quest apps. So there's really not a whole lot of distinction anymore unless you're getting a direct Quest, a Quest native app, or if you're getting some of the like Quest XR Elite. I think some of them are more enterprise focused and don't really even have access to the store because they're standalone. But people don't tend to have, those aren't mass market devices that most people have anyway. So just to summarize the events, there are museum exhibits, galleries, commercial installations. Actually, it would make sense. VRARA has been involved in helping out with the Seattle Downtown Historic AR experience, and I haven't put any of those types of locations on there yet, but that would fit on there very well. Or if Novaby had any experiences that would make sense to list on there, those are exactly the kinds of things that I want to make people aware of.
Yeah, that's kind of, would love to chat with you about that. And I was also thinking Revere XR's experience because that's a VR experience in particular. Yeah,
I'd love to cover those. And if anyone's watching this stream, or AA, if you have any comments on that, I'm always looking for connections at VR, AR companies. If you have something you want me to review, I pay for about half of my keys, and about half of them I get given by the developer. And I always note on the review if it's something that I receive for free or not. But I strive to be objective on everything. But yeah, let me know if there's something that I should be talking about, and I'm glad to cover that. So that pretty much summarizes what's going on with VR voyaging. Just kind of briefly, I wanted to go through, I just got 2 slides, I think, on talking about the process a little bit. How do these things even come to life? I mentioned photogrammetry earlier on. Photogrammetry is the process of just taking a photo from every conceivable angle, and then the computer does some solving on it to figure out, to reconstruct what must this have looked like in 3D in order for all of these 2D photos to have happened. And it likes drones because the drones are generally very precisely location tagged for the photos. Generally speaking, the GPS on your camera is probably not sensitive enough to help with that, but using a tool like reality capture, which I think is also epic these days, and several other tools like that. There's Luma AI, there's Polycam. You can submit the photos, it will do the solving for you, it'll spit out a 3D model. It'll, as part of that process, it'll actually figure out where all the cameras were in relation to the object. And so there'll be an indicator here and an indicator here to show that when you took a picture of this person or whatever it is, statue, that's where the cameras must have been in order to come up with that, not that angle. And then it generates the novel angles in between. I think most people are familiar with LiDAR these days. It used to just be something for like self-driving cars and like industrial scanning of locations, preservation, that sort of thing. But it's now, drones will be carrying it. Of course, cars drive it. Car drive with it still. The Apple phone famously, the iPhone, I know that, has LiDAR sensors on it, and people may not realize that that's enabling things like face recognition with low light. And it also, if you use tools like Polycam, Luma AI, and Capture Reality, it will use the LiDAR sensor on your iPhone. It'll work on an Android, but it's going to be a little bit better because what LiDAR gives you is a pixel by pixel depth. That's all it is. It's a structured light sort of thing that gives you depth. And the other way of doing that is with a time of flight camera, which is a little bit less precise. I should have just taken this down to begin with. If anyone's seen the Intel RealSense cameras, this is stereo and also has a structured light emitter and then detector that enables it to capture a mesh from the angle that it's looking at. So these are some of the tools you can use. Whether they run locally on your desktop. I guess I should specify, I only know which ones work on Windows. Some of these may work on Mac as well, or Linux. Meshroom is open source, obviously a pretty nice feature. I think Polycam is free for some basic use. Luma AI also is free for some basic use, but certain export options, certain sharing might cost some money. Distribution, Sketchfab is amazing, web, VR, AR. Uploading to it, you get something like 10 free a month if you're not a pro member. And then there's restrictions on how many you can have private if that's, if you're still working on it, you're not ready to publish it. They're really incentivizing cultural archives. And so if you're just trying to do it for yourself or in my case, I've been trying to build up a collection of some things that I've scanned, but I still need to do some work on them, and that limits you until you're in the pro level. And then, of course, a lot of distribution is the apps that I review on the site, so you can just make your own custom experience. And a lot of that is really, the Sketchfab lets you teleport around the scene. But with your own app, you can choose how you want to scale things, what kind of a navigation menu you want to get, between different places. Apps like Blue Planet let you view a miniature of the model in your hand while you're looking in the full model and jump from one location to another. Provide a bunch of orbs, kind of little spheres of the locations that you can choose from to go between them. Whereas Sketchfab, in between, you're back in a flat web interface. They did release a mobile app, and it has been abandoned, weirdly. So you're welcome to try it, but it's not very good. So next steps of VR voyaging, and for my development efforts, I showed you kind of a preview of that model catalog on the site. So as I identify models of interest to me on Sketchfab and possibly on other sites in the future, I'll have a direct collection of that embedded on VR voyaging. Like I mentioned with Sketchfab, I am working on creating models now as I travel, trying to capture interesting places, interesting things, statues, rooms, exteriors, and also interested in working with institutions that would like to learn more about their options for preservation and archiving and what to do with the models once they have them, what's the best equipment to use. There's handheld scanners, there's large scale scanners, a lot of these things that maybe aren't in the purview of most museums in general, but they know they want to get there. So I'm available for that as well. So that concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Arian. Thank you for taking us through this trip and walking us through what you have available at our fingertips, right? We just have to go visit it and click through to be able to experience these things without having to scour through the multiple video games that Steam shows first, right? And hey, I don't want to see all these video games. Just focus on travel. This is a great resource. I believe, Julia, if you have any other question, I want to open it to AA. She hasn't responded.
Yes.
But it's an opportunity
Hello?
right now to ask Arian directly. And
Kazai? AA? No. Yeah, I was wondering if, any companies like Blue Planet or others similar to them are maybe offering subscriptions as opposed to purchase of content. Sounds like it's a little bit like a ebook model where people are purchasing a book and downloading that book and they kind of keep it forever, which I can certainly see why people would do that. But a subscription model might be an interesting approach too. To me, that sounds a bit more attractive than buying, but.
Yeah, I could see that as well. None of them are doing that at the moment. I'm not sure if I know of any VR apps that provide that. And often what happens is you'll get an amazing title that comes out and it has 3 or 4 or 5, 8 locations and you never see it again. And I don't know if it's because they just didn't charge appropriately. Again, it's not very sustainable to get a one-time fee to then be able to be adding content over time. So I think subscriptions make a lot of sense. I'm a little surprised I haven't seen that, at least as an option. You can buy the DLC or you can subscribe to get everything,
Yeah, seems like it could create a more sustainable business model for the creators. Yeah.
But it's still very much in its infancy, VR in general. It's really massively grown in just the last year. And so there's a lot of just playing around with different models and seeing what business models, not 3D models, both.
All the above.
Yeah, just to see what works and what's cost effective. Sometimes it's a question of Meta or Steam support, not Steam so much, Meta providing incentives to develop on the platform. Pico does that as well, I think. That probably means some level of exclusivity for a time, but they're often very rigid on what they want to see for the titles. It's actually kind of famously difficult to get onto the Meta Quest store or the Meta App Store. You can get to they call their App Lab, which is somewhat Wild West, but to actually be on their main store, it's not like Steam. You pretty much need to forge a connection with them, and they kind of guide you through it. It's kind of a big deal.
Okay, that's really, really interesting. And then how are you finding all of this content? I love what you've done. I mean, this is really what's needed, I feel like. And so just wondering right now, like, how do you go about finding your content and reviewing and all of that?
It's a combination of Google Foo and making connections, LinkedIn, some of the people that I've met referring me to other people. This is the standard, or this is the central repository effectively. So there really isn't another place that I can go. Sometimes I'll get tipped from some of the other websites that are out there. When I see something on there, I'll look into it more. The one thing I hadn't seen anywhere is that map, though. That was actually one of the first things that drove me to make the site. Was nobody had a way to just say, I want to go to this area. How would I go there? What apps have that location? Let alone having them then on a map and an interactive map. So that was a lot of what drove me to work on this. And I could definitely see making a VR experience on the site that was a globe that you could spin and then tap it. Not to visit, because, unless it's a Sketchfab model. Even on Sketchfab, there's no standardized way to give a location as to where it was captured, which is a little weird.
Interesting.
SciArc and Google and a few other digital preservation organizations have very detailed structured data with LiDAR scans, photogrammetry, point clouds you can explore. And they have lots of information on exactly where and when and all of that sort of thing. But that's just not something you see at the level of apps. So I'm hoping that that's popular with people.
Yeah, I think the two maps that you showed us, right? The world map and the calendar map. It's a ton. It adds a ton of value for those of us to the points that you made at the beginning, right? That the dangerous areas to go. We just don't have time to go travel halfway around the world, and we can just do it here with a few clicks, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
You can go inside the Chauvet cave outside of France and see some of the world's oldest human artwork. And it's just an amazing experience.
Yeah.
That's really
Great.
cool,
Well,
really cool, Ariane.
Yeah. Thank you, Ariane. Really impressive.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Any last
Yeah.
words before we close our program for today?
Nope. Just in case anyone didn't catch it, I guess it is vrvoyaging.com. So give it a visit. And again, if you want to interact with me, you can find me on LinkedIn or go to the About contact on the site and let me know of what you're working on, or whether it's location-based, app-based. I'm happy to get it listed on there.
Yeah, I'd love to circle back with you, Ariane. Got some thoughts and ideas. So
Yeah,
great.
definitely.
Excellent.
Great.
Thank you,
Alright.
Julia. Thank you, Ariane. Thank you, Kazi. Hopefully you were listening today. And the few guys that joined at the beginning, not here today, Alex, Manuel, thank you so much. We look forward to our next event in March. Stay tuned. We're putting that program together. We'll start promoting it soon. So stay engaged, and we're very happy to bring you these programs. So
Yeah.
thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Take care, everyone.
Take
Bye.
care. Bye.